Hello, beautiful people. You are listening to Pittsburgh Phamous with Phat Man Dee. We shot this at the River's Edge Studios in Milvale, Pennsylvania at the Mr. Smalls Complex. This is a show dedicating to celebrating, loving, promoting, and supporting the incredible artists that live and work in and around Pittsburgh, PA. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody in between and on beyond, welcome to this episode of Pittsburgh Phamous with Phat Man Dee. That's me. This podcast episode, we are so blessed to have the incredible artists Carolina Loyola Garcia and Jon Bañuelos. And we are going to talk about flamenco. Yay. So I guess let's start off. Carolina, where are you from?
Hi, Mandee.
Hi, Carolina.
Thanks for having us here in your show. I am from Chile. I was born and raised in Chile, and I've been in the States, in Pittsburgh specifically, for the past 23 years. And what brought me here was school. I came here first as an exchange student at CMU, and then later on I came back to pursue my master's, my MFA, also at CMU, and never really with the intention of staying here, but I'm still here.
We grew on you.
Later, yeah,
you thought you could get out, and we got you back.
That's very Pittsburgh. I still don't think I'm gonna stay here.
After you've raised children here.
I'm leaving, I swear.
I'm leaving any minute now, okay.
We say that. That's, you're not, yeah.
No, I mean, in all honesty, Pittsburgh's been a great place for me to be in and work, and I've been really lucky to meet amazing, friends, artists, colleagues. I've had so many opportunities to do my work that, I think that's why I just keep staying, because it's a great place to be an artist and have work, as an artist, and also be able to raise a family. And, there's a very supportive community. And I say this for all those people who have never been to Pittsburgh. There's a really supportive arts community, but very vibrant. And it just keeps getting, I feel more diverse and more inclusive, and so highly recommended.
Well, we are certainly lucky to have you. That is how I feel. Mr. Bañuelos, yes. Jon, my friend, where are you from?
So I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I'm from a suburb called Hacienda Heights. It's east of LA. And I got here to Pittsburgh 10 years ago, actually, this year. So I came in 2010. I came with my wife, Rachel. She got to a master's program at Pitt. And it was cool because I said, all right, let me try Pittsburgh, let's see what happens. And I had like 2 phone numbers of people that I didn't know yet. So one was Carolina and one was another friend, Victor. And I remember coming to town and saying, okay, hey, Carolina, how's it going? I play flamenco. And she's like, yeah, we need a guitar player. So I said, all right, perfect. And it fit in, and I too am like, yeah, one day I'll go back to Arizona, where my dad is, I'll go back here, but I'm still here, and it's the same thing. I feel the same way, like my ability to work here, my ability to express my art, and the community is just amazing in Pittsburgh. So what keeps me staying here, and it's a wonderful town,
Well, I mean, I've certainly enjoyed listening to you and sharing music with you. I'm just lucky that you came to town, because Pittsburgh would be a much sadder, quieter place without you.
Thank you.
You cannot leave.
I cannot leave.
Not before me.
The pierogies have thickened your blood. Even if you wanted to, you just can't. So okay. So what else? So when did you start? Carolina, you can answer first, I guess, or however it happens. What brought you to flamenco?
So my interest in the performing arts started when I was very young. I think the first play I did, I was 9. Was 5th grade, and I was 9. And so I've been interested in the performing arts since I was very young. Before that, I would entertain my family, for gatherings, and I would dance on the coffee table, and sing and do all these, things. And so I did theater in college and film. And then while I was in film school, I started taking flamenco classes. This is back in Chile. I had seen flamenco before that when I went to Spain with my family when I was a teenager. I saw the first tablao in Seville. And I had seen the opera Carmen a few times because my dad was is a big opera aficionado. So I guess those were elements that were in the background there somewhere. And then, I gravitated towards flamenco because I just thought it was a really interesting visual art form, that I was curious about. So I started taking classes while I was in film school. And I've never stopped. I still take classes. I've been studying for, I don't know, 20, how many years now? 25, 26 years. And I started in Chile. Then when I moved to Pittsburgh, there was no flamenco here. So I started a small community, of people where I could teach them the little that I knew back then, So I would teach sevillanas and a little bit of rumbas. And that was with the hope of getting people interested in flamenco so that we could actually bring people to teach us, That was like my strategic, move. Like if there's like a, group of interest here, right? We can, import it, right? So I did that for a while. I would bring people from out of town to teach workshops here in Pittsburgh. And we brought Antonio Vargas, and we brought Antonio Hidalgo, we brought, Maria Temo, we brought Aurora Reyes from New York. She was the first one who came, actually. And I continued to study. Back then I would go to New York to take classes. And then in 2001, I had the opportunity to go to New Mexico, to Albuquerque, to be a visiting artist and teach video, at the university there. And little did I know that there's a conservatory of flamenco arts in Albuquerque. It's still there. And so the semester that I was there, I took classes like every day at the conservatory, and then taught, my class at the university. And that was great. That was, a huge instruction in, not just in flamenco, but in curriculum, in developing curriculum for flamenco and how they have their classes structured, by levels and very focused, like just footwork class, just arm work class, just like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was great. And it was also in 2000, after that experience, I started going to Spain. I started going to Spain. At the beginning, I didn't go every year, but for the past decade, I've been going every year to Spain, and I spent, a month and a half just studying, and every chance that I have, when I'm traveling, I travel quite a bit for work, I'll take classes because, the more teachers that you have, the more you learn, and you realize, oh, this group here does this thing this way, and then, this other do this differently, and you try to find the connections, and it was also in that process of like traveling and meeting people and studying, and that I started meeting and bringing people here to Pittsburgh. I started meeting more of the flamenco community that resides in the United States, right? I remember in the mid-2000s, I guess 2005, 2006, in that time period, the Shadow Lounge, we'll remember Shadow Lounge.
Shadow Lounge.
Love you. They started bringing, they would host, a little jam sessions like after hours, of flamenco people that were here to do shows in other places. And so some of the local community got exposed to people from DC, and we started generating, relationships, right? Work relationships with the flamencos from Washington, DC, from Philly, from New York. And that was at the base of my interest, later on in doing a documentary about flamenco in the United States.
Yeah, I do want to touch that. But I want to know, Jon, like what brought you to flamenco? What brought you to playing this music?
Yeah, so I did not play music as a kid growing up, and I have a funny story where my older sister, she had a guitar, and being like, I was the younger kid, and I always was fascinated by it, and I knew it was in her room, it was in her closet, and when she was not there, I would go sneak in, and I would go and open the guitar, and I would just be like, wow, check this out. And I would get like a nickel, and I would just mess around, play with it and stuff, until one day, after various times going in there, the string broke. And I was like, oh, crap, I'm in trouble, So I put it away, and I never touched it again, Neither did she, because it was always in the closet, so she didn't know about it. So it was good. But actually, I first went to Europe. I traveled around Europe. I backpacked when I was 19. I traveled around. And during that journey, the whole time I had this image of a guitar in my head. And I was like, okay, when I get back home, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play guitar. And it was a classical guitar. That's the one I liked most. And so I bought one. I started playing with it. And then when I was 20, I actually moved to Tucson, Arizona. And there I went to a local music store. And I knew I wanted to play classical. And I got the number of Ismael Barajas, who lives there. And he played classical and flamenco. And listening to him play, I was able to really just absorb a lot from him. He actually kind of took me on as like he's my mentor, you know. He had a band, and it was an amazing experience because I was able to learn kind of like how the generations learn from like father to son in a way, you know. And it was that. Also, a friend of mine got me a CD of Sabicas, another artist who was a very famous flamenco guitar player in the 60s. And once I heard Sabicas, I was like, that's what I want to play. You know, it's hard as hell, but I want to play it, you know. So I was with Ismael for about 3 years, playing in his Latin jazz band, learning the basics and also learning, you know, Latin jazz, learning flamenco and everything. And in 2001, I studied in New York City, flamenco there for a summer. And that's when 9/11 happened, of course. And that was where also a decision of me saying, I got to do what I want to do now, you know, because the world was going to end and everything. And I went to Jerez de la Frontera. I went to Spain for about 3 years studying flamenco.
Oh, wow.
And it was very intense because, you know, I thought I knew a lot and I was able to kind of manage my own. And when I got there, I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is like some major stuff, you know. And I was lucky enough to get into a program where it was like a 3-month program of like, I got board, housing, and plus flamenco lessons. It was like 3 times a week, and it was just like, you know, drilling it, you know. So and also Jerez de la Frontera is the cuna de flamenco, so it's like the birthplace. So there's a lot of cante, a lot of singing, a lot of guitar, and it's literally everywhere. You know, you go to the bank, you hear flamenco. You go to the store, you hear flamenco. Every holiday, there's flamenco involved. So it's just like immersion, you know. So being in Jerez was just like putting me like over the edge of anything I ever thought of, you know. So I came back home. I was in Tucson, and then I was able to kind of also. I mean, flamenco is also very interesting. So it's specific. So when you meet somebody and you say, "Oh, you do flamenco? Oh, that's cool. Let's hang out. Let's jam." And that's how I kind of, you know, traveled around the States too. I found where tablaos were, where people played flamenco, where schools were, and I was able to like play with them and just got better. And that's another reason how I came here and I met Carolina, because she had a school, and I said, I play flamenco, you do flamenco, let's get together.
Let's flamenco together.
Exactly.
Flamenco it.
Exactly. and it's the whole basis of flamenco as well as communication, you know.
Yeah.
You need to communicate with each other, and it's kind of getting you past that next day as well, you know. You learn more, and I mean, when I was in Spain, I studied with some great masters. I studied with Padilla de Jerez, Jose Luis Balao, Juan Diego, and I mean, being in that time where I was just like, it was like being a baby, you know, starting from zero and just learning like how they learned, you know. It was an amazing experience that to this day I still have stuff to learn from, you know. It's like a well I need to keep going back to, you know. So it's been an amazing journey, and it's also been frustrating at the same time, but when you kind of, you know, work hard onto it, it's great at the end of the day when you're like, okay, what we've done with Alba Flamenca here for the past 10 years, playing all over town. It's something, when I thought I moved to Pittsburgh, I would never play flamenco again, you know, because I didn't know, but I played more flamenco than I ever did, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that actually leads really nicely into my next question is, where do you teach? How do you teach? You know, what is Alba Flamenca Pittsburgh?
So I have a studio now. I've taught in a bunch of different studios through the years that I've been in Pittsburgh, but 3 or 4 years ago I opened my own studio. Yay! And so, you know, 2 of the dancers in the company also teach there. I teach. We rehearse there, and we do not just flamenco. We rehearse a bunch of other theater and stage projects and film projects in that space. So the guys, you know, go rehearse there whenever they want. So it's really become like a cultural center of all
Yeah.
sorts, without
Mhm.
having like a formal name. And then Alba Flamenca started. We had a different band before that we called Flamenco del Pilar, but then our guitarist, moved out of town, and we were, left without live music, right? It's not like in Pittsburgh you have, all these different flamenco musicians to choose from,
Yeah,
right? There's very few of us.
Yeah.
So we try to stick together. And then when Jon showed up in 2010, it was like, yes! Come on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and with him and James Bond and Barbara York, we started Alba Flamenca, which has morphed and changed and evolved over the years. I think we have a much more solid sound now than we did then.
It's a full band. You have like four
Oh,
guitarists.
Yeah.
And we
And a horn player.
Yeah.
And a flute player.
And a flute player.
And a chick on the cajon.
Yeah. Well, it's changed. I mean, people come and go, right? So we always have guest musicians join us for different gigs. Different people have started singing as well. So Barbie's our main singer. But then Guillermito de la Isla, this guy from Spain,
He's great.
she moved to Pittsburgh and he sings, so he started singing with us as well. We often, ask guest musicians who are singers to join us, so you play with us a bunch of times. I started singing a few years ago in the band out of necessity more than anything. And so, it's sort of very organically evolved, and everybody keeps getting better because we all keep studying, you know, so I'm pretty happy with what we're doing and how the shows are looking and how full, complete, and soulful they end up being.
I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but we should talk a little bit about Flowers for Violetta. Is that the name of the play?
Looking for Violetta.
Looking for Violetta. We should talk about Looking for Violetta.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a couple minutes?
So, Looking for Violetta is a play that we did this past summer here in Pittsburgh with Quantum Theater. Quantum Theater produced this show. Carla Booth directed it, and it was written by Maria Jose Galleguillos, who is a Chilean playwright that I went to school with in Chile when we were in theater school.
See, I didn't know that.
And that's how she got involved in the project.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's an original play with original music composed by Emily Pinkerton. We did a full month of runs in August. It tells the story of Violetta Parra, who was a Chilean artist, very multidisciplinary. Her main disciplines were as a visual artist and also as a musician. She wrote her own lyrics. She was a poet and composed her own music, and she created what became the new song of Chile, and that then moved and transcended into Latin America, which was a song rescuing original native sounds and telling the story of the people, telling the story of the workers, telling the story of the miners, telling the story of the people in the countryside.
She was a revolutionary.
Very much so. And so her life unfortunately ended very soon. She was not yet 50 when she committed suicide. And so our play told her story and told her story from the perspective of Nicanor Parra, who was one of her siblings, her oldest brother, who was also a poet. And he died a few years ago, and so it's in his death, Nicanor dies, and in death he goes looking for Violetta, hence the name of the play, right? She has been dead already for a while, right? So he goes looking for her in death, right? And it's in death that this sort of fantasy happens, where he finds her, and we learn about her life story. And then we go beyond her point of death, because he cannot console himself with her, about her death, and he wants her to know what happened after she died, right? And
how far her
changed,
music
and
went, and how many people were inspired.
Exactly. And then we are finally given the reality that she's not a martyr, she's not, a heartbroken woman, right? She made a decision. She was entitled and empowered, right, to make that decision to end her life for a variety of reasons, right? So yeah, that was a really interesting project, and she's asking me because I played Violetta in the.
Well, and Jon also
Jon
was
Yeah,
in
play
the
guitar,
band
yeah.
was
the,
huge.
the ensemble was 10 people on stage, so 6 performers that were singing, acting, dancing, and then 4 musicians that were just musicians, and one of the 6 performers, Emily, doubled as both an actor and a musician, right?
Yeah.
So there were 10 of us on
Yeah.
stage. And actually Jon, who is a regular Alba Flamenca member, and Eric Lawrence, who is usually a guest artist with us, he was also involved in the project.
And the bass player.
Layo.
Layo, yeah, he's
Layo
also been,
Puentes.
exactly, a
Yeah,
guest
yeah,
musician with us many times. So he was.
I hope it gets
It was-
produced again.
yeah.
It was amazing. It was truly amazing. But let's talk about Sobre las Olas, which
Uh-huh.
is something people could hopefully experience somewhere.
Yeah, so Sobre las Olas is a documentary that I produced. I released it in 2013. And it's a feature length that tells the story of flamenco in the United States. So as a result of me meeting people and traveling and taking classes and bringing people here, I started, becoming aware of all the different, communities, flamenco communities that exist in the country, and there's a
Yeah,
lot of them.
there is.
They're not big. I don't think there's any gigantic flamenco community around. Even though in LA there's a lot of flamencos, but it's usually like a few people that sort of started and generate some movement around it, and so I became interested in telling the story of these people that for various reasons are doing flamenco in this country, why here, who they are, where they're from, why flamenco, right? And then I wanted to also show what flamenco looks and sounds like here in the United States, which is a little bit different, right, from what the scene is in Spain, right? And so for 5 years or so, I dedicated myself to producing this film. I did a lot of fundraising, year after year, and we were able to complete the film. We traveled around, various cities here in the States. We went to Chicago, we went to New York, we went to Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Albuquerque, Santa Fe, LA, probably forgetting, a town here or there, and we interviewed people, worked with people, staged, performances, right, in black box studios, and then that became the film, right? I also went to Spain, actually, to interview Carmela Greco, and tell a little bit of her story, because one of the stories that is told in the documentary is the story of Jose Greco, who was, the person that everybody seemed to recognize as the man who brought flamenco to the United States in a very massive way, right? So all of those, elements are brought into this overall narrative that tells you a snippet, right, of what flamenco is in the United States. I encourage other people to tell more stories, because there are many, many, many stories that could be told.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where can people see the movie? Is it going to be screened somewhere?
Yeah, the movie's available. Yeah, it's been screened in a bunch of festivals. It was on PBS, last year. So yeah, it's available. It's also being distributed by a company out of New York for the educational market. So if you teach at a university or you run, a library somewhere, you can buy it, for your collection. There, people can also buy it for home, video use.
Okay.
You can find all that information on the website for the documentary, which is flamencodocumentary.com. Pretty easy.
We'll put that in the
Whole
show
word
notes.
flamenco, FLAMENCO, documentary.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Jon, you were talking about, do you have any recorded works that our listeners can check out?
Yeah, I do. I just recently, so last year, 2019, I put out an EP called Creosote and Beer, and it's kind of like 6 songs. It's a little ode to Tucson and the desert. And if anybody has ever been to the desert, especially in the rain, they know that creosote, which is a old indigenous plant, it just fills up the whole air and it smells so good. A lot of the songs are dedications. Creosote and Beer is one to my wife, and I have one called Calabacita on there, dedicated to my mom. And then also I have some other tunes, and it's kind of a little departure of just strictly flamenco. I have songs that it's like singer-songwriter as well, but definitely you can hear like where my schooling and what I kind of put into a lot of my guitar work. It's in there with like flamenco, so it's a nice little mix of stuff. You can find that on Bandcamp. You can find it on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify, or iTunes. And you could I like it to people direct it to the Bandcamp because that money directly does come to the artist, you know. But it's a really nice one that you can come pick up. Jon Bañuelos at Bandcamp.
Yep.
Creosote and beer.
Show notes. Somebody remind me.
Yeah.
Show notes. Show notes.
Shout
I'm
outs.
referring to my friend Nick off camera right here. He's the engineer making it happen.
Yeah.
So I know a live performances. We have a live performance coming up. At least I think we do because I think I'm guesting on it.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes. When is that? What's the date? February 8th.
Yes, we
8th.
have a show coming up. It's a new project that Jon and I, decided to start. So this is our first show, actually, of this new project that we're calling the Uptown Quartet. So it's a quartet where it's gonna be, just music without the dancing component for now. I mean, it might evolve into that. So we're gonna be playing a lot of flamenco and Latin rhythms with our usual guest artist model, right? So it's a quartet, but many people are gonna join us for the show February 8th at James Simon Sculpture Studios in Uptown Pittsburgh. And I hope to see you guys
Come
there.
on out.
Yeah, it's on Gist Street. Do we know the number? What number Gist Street?
305.
305 Gist
305
Street.
Yeah, Eric Lawrence is part of the quartet as well, and Jeff Berman is part of the quartet.
Oh, that's going to be
And
nice.
we're gonna have some of our guest artists, musicians are Miss Phat Man Dee here on camera.
That's me.
And we're gonna have Tom Roberts also as a guest musician. And who else am I forgetting?
I think, let's see, maybe James Bond will show up there, play some flamenco with
Yeah,
us too.
James I think is also gonna be playing with us, and a couple other surprises.
Yes.
That sounds great. Oh, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I think I've asked you everything I wanted to ask you. Oh, online presence. Where can we find you on socials?
Flamenco, Alba Flamenca on Facebook. And make sure that you select the Pittsburgh band because there's another Alba Flamenca in Scotland.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not in
Believe it or
Scotland
not,
yet.
Not yet.
Not
Alba
yet. Any minute
Flamenca
now.
Pittsburgh on Facebook, and you can find. We're not on Instagram yet.
Yeah.
You are personally.
I am personally, so Carolina Loyola Garcia Instagram, and also my website is carolinaloyolagarcia.net. And all things are connected, so if you just get to one place or Google me, you'll find all this information.
Yeah, same here. I have my Facebook page where I have a fan page, Jon Bañuelos. Also, I have videos up on YouTube that you can find me there. And then through Flamenco Pittsburgh, that's where you can find my information.
And Bandcamp. Your music's on
And
Bandcamp.
my music's on Bandcamp, yes.
Okay. Okay, well, let's go hear what this
Let's
is
listen to
all
music.
about. Okay. Thank you. Mwah.
The Ya no estás más a mi lado, corazón. En el alma solo tengo soledad. Y si ya no puedo verte, porque Dios me hizo quererte para hacerme sufrir más. Siempre fuiste la razón de mi existir. Adorarte para mí fue religión. En tu beso yo encontraba el calor que me brindaba, el amor y la pasión. Es la historia de un amor como no hay otro igual, que me hizo comprender todo el bien, todo el mal, que le dio luz a mi vida, apagándola después. Ay, qué vida tan oscura, sin tu amor no viviré. Ya no estás más a mi lado, corazón. En el alma solo tengo soledad. Y si ya no puedo verte, porque Dios me hizo quererte para hacerme sufrir más. Siempre fuiste la razón de mi existir. Adorarte para mí fue religión. Y en tu beso yo encontraba el calor que me brindaba, el amor y la pasión. Es la historia de un amor como no hay otro igual, que me hizo comprender todo el bien, todo el mal, que le dio luz a mi vida, apagándola después. Ay, qué vida tan oscura, sin tu amor no viviré. Ya no estás más a mi lado, corazón. En el alma solo tengo soledad. Y si ya no puedo verte, porque Dios me hizo quererte para hacerme sufrir más. Vale.
Hey.
Me paso la vida pensando en lo bueno y lo malo. Mi mente está triste, me siento algo extraña. Mi cuerpo se agota, mi alma no nota. De ver en el mundo mentiras de otra boca, la loca envidia que trae la mentira. Palabras tan falsas que por mi mente pasan. Y hoy pasa, el tiempo se pasa y los años me cansan de ver más mentiras que trae gente mala El tiempo está en vilo, yo sé qué me pasa. Mentira, palabra, todo es una farsa. Tengo un momento de ansias mundanas. Quisiera decir lo que siento en mi alma. Que la vida pasa, yo voy, pasa yo. Pensando en lo bueno y lo malo, mi mente está triste, me siento algo extraña, mi cuerpo se agota, mi alma lo nota, de ver en una mentira de otra boca, la loca envidia que trae la mentira, palabras tan falsas que por mi mente pasan, yo voy y pasan. El tiempo se pasa y los años me cansan de ver más mentiras que traen gente vana. El tiempo está en vino, yo sé qué me pasa. Mentira, palabra, todo es una farsa. Tengo un momento de ansias mundanas. Quisiera decir lo que siento en mi alma, que la vida pasa. Yo voy, pasa y yo. Y en mi mundo nuevo te voy a olvidar, que ya, las aventuras que he podido vivir. Que ya no aguanto más mis historias así en mí. Me paso la vida pensando que la vida pasa, yo y pasa. Me paso la vida pensando que la vida pasa. Me paso la vida pensando que la vida pasa, yo y pasa yo.
Jons, yo te quiero.
So good, te quiero. Thank you so much.
Mis amigos. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody in between, this is what it is to be Pittsburgh Phamous. Carolina Loyola Garcia, Jon Bañuelos. I am your host, Phat Man Dee, and we are Pittsburgh Phamous on the river's edge here in Milvale, PA, as part of the Mr. Smalls complex.
Ciao.
You have been listening to Pittsburgh Phamous with Phat Man Dee. This presentation was made possible by the River's Edge radio station, Mr. Small's Theater, Creative Life Support, and Phat Man Dee Presents. If you like what you hear, please like it, share it, comment, tell us what you think about it. I'm on the Instagrams, the Tweeters, and the Book of Face as Phat Man Dee. That's PhatMandee. If you really like it, and you would like me to talk about your product, I'm open for inquiries regarding sponsorship. And I'm also on Patreon, patreon.com/PhatManDee. That's PhatMandee. This is January 2020, and I want you to stay beautiful, stay blessed, and stay famous.